Hey, this is Jonathan Newton, doing my assignment number 1 for advocacy and empowerment. And here we go. The who, what, when, where, why, how, drug and alcohol, adolescent day treatment. This is my, basically my training for this year in my practicum. 16-year-old male, Xanax addiction, committed to the state for relatively violent and serious crime. I've been working with him since November, so it aligned very well with my practicum. He's my primary, so it's worked out very well. Basically, we're going to be working, what I worked on him for was trying to advocate for himself as far as a reduction in financial restitution, which is pretty severe. This included, I guess this is getting down to the how, but working with his PO, working with and petitioning in a formal sense to the courts of Clackamas County. And why? Just because he's been on a path for about 3 years of kind of being in the system, the prison system, court system, and as a way to kind of understand that better and finally like how to try to break that cycle for himself. Intended outcomes, I really just wanted the youth to have a better idea of how this system works because he seems pretty confused by it. He's just kind of in it. He doesn't get it. Try to increase communication between his probation worker and himself and just how to communicate more effectively. And actually petition to the court, which I aided with, to get a lower restitution. Do this education. At this time, I basically had to educate myself a little bit, but about how OYA, Oregon Youth Authority, kind of takes over guardianship of youth. And the goal is to provide education both to myself and him because I didn't understand a lot of this, so it's helpful for me. As far as how I helped in advocacy, I wrote a letter to both his, and worked with his probation worker, and sent a letter to the court system to his self-petition to get a reduction, basically to say that he's grown, he's succeeded, and he's done a good job since he was last seen by them, basically sentenced by them. Coached, that's kind of what I call the kicking him out of the nest, where I didn't do the work for him. I kind of told him what to do and how to go about it. But I think it was a good way to kind of get him, who always relied on other people, to not rely on me, as far as his family. We'll get to that. And empowerment, goal here was just to kind of work together on what our goals were and how we were going to try to achieve them. Whether we will or not is a different story, but working towards that. And him seeing what that process is like and feeling like he could do it for himself in the future. Utilize skills, individual therapy, motivational interviewing, trying to see what he wanted out of the situation, how he would best get that, what was realistic, and group therapy, which I've been teaching at this practicum. That a lot since I've been with him. Other skills, my research skills, both, I mean, I'll be honest, use a lot of just Google, but also access some of the state of Oregon's OYA information. They have a database to kind of see what other situations had ended with, and my communication, personal skills, just kind of communicating with different agencies for him, kind of behind his back, and just kind of using my people skills to get as much information as I could. As far as family involvement, he's got a complicated family. Mother's kind of done with him. Grandmother babies him severely, so kind of both extremes. Neither were directly involved in this intervention, but both were able to kind of know what's going on, and they want what's best for him at the end of the day. So, you know, if it means less restitution, less time, they are for that. So they weren't directly involved, but they are supportive in their own ways. Assessment, basically everything's pending because we don't have the results yet. We sent it out about 2 weeks ago to the court. Court systems kind of move at their own rate. But I do feel that the actual advocacy and empowerment part was a success, where he was able to kind of see how to do things on his own, which as a 16-year-old in the court system is probably a bit of an anomaly. What I always tell my kids is hope for the best, but expect the worst. So even if he did not get the results of a reduced restitution, you know, that's hopefully kind of built up in his head. And I think he's just got a better sense of the court system, which I just think that it's critical for some people, unfortunately. And finally, a personal goal, just kind of seeing how all this can play out. And I feel like I understand like the different levels of the advocacy model by Curry Stevens works. And just a personal note, I guess I don't really see him getting what he wants out of the court system. So I may or may not have to deal with that disappointment depending when the results come in and when my practicum ends. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see. Future goals, work with at-risk populations, which I do, kind of continue to teach them social inequities that leads to imprisonment by higher numbers in certain populations and how they can kind of beat those odds. And those that are in the system, just kind of teach them how to navigate it. Because it's complicated, it really is. So I don't blame the kids, it's just a tough system. And also, I think I should just be more of an independent advocate for cases that I find to be unjust. That is my presentation. Thank you for listening.